Hey,
Chief.
Neil. How are you?
Good, Joe.
Good to see you, Neil.
Thanks for coming by. We're certainly excited about this. As you know, this is replacing a fire station that's 60 years old that has really served us well, but it was time to build a new facility. One because of space, one because of Route 17 widening, another because of just the maintenance of the existing building. What we have here, this is our lobby area. Oftentimes the public comes in for a variety of reasons. One, to report emergencies, and oftentimes we have groups that want to take tours. So this lobby will allow us to capture some of the historical information from the department over the past 60 years, as well as be a focal point for the public when they come to visit us, and us to be able to serve them better. As you know, Joe, our Deputy Director of Public Works and the county engineer, has overseen this project. Joe, I don't know if you want to cover anything about it.
Yeah, how long have you been working on this thing?
Well, you came at a good time because it's almost 3 years to the day that we started the formal design, and about 14 months ago we started the actual construction, and we're within a couple months of finishing it up.
Yeah, and of course, really the project timeline is longer than that, because before you got to design, a lot of thought went into the optimal location for the facility, then we had to acquire the land. So you're really talking about 6, 7, 8 year process from conceiving the idea to actually cutting the ribbon, which we're really looking forward to that. Chief, could you maybe take us down the hall and show us like the living area?
Sure, let's go ahead and take a look around.
Hey, Joe. So what do we got here?
So here we've just moved from the lobby to what we in the Fire and Rescue Service call our day room.
So this is the living room.
Exactly. You know, our firefighters that work in these fire stations, this is their home away from home for 24 hours on each of their shifts. So this is a space, you know, where they do their training, their classroom training, to stay prepared for any kind of emergency they may be called upon. After they have a bad call or a significant call, this provides a little bit of a space for some respite. Exactly. It's adjacent to the kitchen area. Obviously, living here 24 hours a day, they've got to prepare meals.
Well, Joe, would this be a good time for you to maybe share a few factoids about what went into the construction of this facility?
Sure. Early on in the design process, we identified that a very important aspect is to make sure the station's going to be here through a significant storm event. So to that end, we designed for a 120 mile an hour wind, which gets us, I think, in the middle of the Category 3 hurricane. So you'll see some things that are very obvious. All the walls are reinforced masonry. Those are known to stand up much better than conventional wood or steel framing. Some things you might not notice, the windows are 1.25 inches thick, much thicker than what you would find on a home or an office. But it all does an important thing to make sure the building will protect the equipment and the personnel in here during a storm, so at the end of the storm they can get back out and doing their job without any loss.
And I know we're going to have a 24/7 generator capability in this building.
Absolutely. You know, this station, as do all of our fire stations now, have that capability so that our crews can stay functional no matter whether we have power or not in the county.
Well, I might suggest, I think the viewing audience would find the new crew space pretty interesting.
Sure.
So why don't we wander over there and maybe you tell us a little bit about what went into our thinking on this particular design.
Okay, absolutely.
So this is unlike all of our other stations.
It is. You know, the ratio of men and women has changed significantly.
The gender mix is shifting.
Absolutely. So, you know, sometimes it's hard to balance that on certain shifts if you have a smaller bunk area for one group and a larger bunk area for another. The other thing is, what we've done here is we've created individual bunk areas for our personnel, and it provides a little bit better living situation for them, creature comforts, allows them to get a little bit more rest on those busy days, and it gives us a lot more flexibility as it relates to the number of personnel and the gender mix that exists at the fire station.
And we put some thought into that. There's different philosophies about that, but I guess another dimension is, as time goes forward, you know, the labor market's getting tighter and tighter, and we need to recruit people for the Fire and Life Safety Service, and, you know, having slightly more comfortable bunk space maybe gives us a little bit of a leg up on the competition.
And I would hope so. I believe that's the case. And I think this is the future of the fire service.
So Joe, if I might suggest at this point, I guess we should go to sort of like the main attraction, which is the bay area where we'll keep all the equipment.
Yes, sir.
So you want to lead us over there?
Absolutely.
And
This way.
while we're on our way, why don't we just take a real quick stop up here. So as we go out to the bay floor, I'll just point out one area. This is a space that will become our exercise area for our firefighters. As you know, physical fitness in our business is extremely important, and making sure that we maintain a level of fitness for all of our personnel. I think it ultimately helps with our improvement of our performance on incidents. And we have an expectation that our personnel do physical fitness training every single day as part of their training plan.
All right, am I going to get an invite to come over here and work out?
You can work out here anytime you'd like. So if you want, we'll go on out to that apparatus bay.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's take a look. One of the first things you'll notice, Neil, are 5 bays. And these doors are pretty unique. They're one of the modern features that Steve was talking about earlier. The really great thing about them is very low maintenance. We've spoken to a lot of fire departments that use them, and they hardly ever have to work on these because they're much like your doors at home. They're hinged, all the weight's on the hinges. You're not lifting the door every time you open it.
And aren't they faster too?
They're twice as fast as the roll-up doors, and the other big advantage is they open this way so the driver can see where the door is. They don't ever have to worry about
Clipping the top.
running into anything.
So even a few seconds on a call can make a difference and just shave 5 seconds off a response.
It does, and turnout time in our business is really important. Turnout time and response time, both, are critical components of our operation. Another thing that's been designed in this entire site is the ability to access this bay from around the building. They can exit out 2 different ways. Typically when they come in, you may see crews driving around the building and then pulling in and back in the bay. Right now with the current fire station, our crews have to stop traffic on Route 17 to back in the fire station.
Right.
It may occur occasionally on Dare Road, but generally it'll be a lot
frequent.
less frequent.
So just in the category of general citizen convenience, Route 17 won't be interfered with very often. Now looking out this open back bay door, Joe, I know there's some special features out here in terms of some of our energy efficiency and some of our storm drainage. Would you maybe talk about that?
Sure, yeah, there are 4 little BMPs on the site, dry ponds, and 1 large one back there.
So BMP is engineer talk for hole in the ground?
A hole in the ground that'll get rid of the storm water but release it at the pre-development levels. And the unique thing about the large BMP back there is we put the geothermal wells underneath the pond. They'll be safe there, no one will ever get into them, but the county started using geothermal sources for their HVAC equipment back in the 90s, kind of at the beginning of anybody using it. We continue doing that today.
So what is the practical benefit of having that geothermal system?
It's much cheaper. It's just like the heat pump at your house most people have, because that's the most efficient, most inexpensive way to heat and cool your house. The geothermal system is kind of like your air-derived system on steroids, because it'll work at much lower temperatures and much higher temperatures.
So you probably don't think about it, but the county has a pretty big power bill for all the buildings that we own, and so every time we have an energy efficient improvement like this, that knocks down that power bill just a little bit in terms of our ongoing costs.
Absolutely.
Well, what else would you gentlemen like to point out while we're here, as chief, as you say, in the business end of the station?
Well, under design, we spent a lot of time on contamination. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Steve.
Good point, Joe. You know, again, in the last 60 years, a lot has changed in the way we do our business. For example, the standard is now you don't take your personal protective clothing inside the fire station. Many people remember the days when you had your bunker pants or boots next to your bunk. That's no longer acceptable in the fire and rescue service because it tends to take carcinogens into the living quarters. So we try to prevent that. So there's a space that all the protective clothing gets cleaned and decontaminated out here. We keep it out on the bay floor, not in the living quarters, and there's a separate storage area for that. In addition, as you know, from an emergency medical services standpoint, there are a lot of calls that we go on where we need to clean the medic units very well as the equipment that we use. So there's an area where we can easily clean and decontaminate our medical equipment after they've been used on a patient, whether it's from a vehicle accident or a medical patient.
So it'll be safe for the next patient.
Absolutely.
And not as in addition to our personnel.
Yes, sir.
Right.
There's been a lot of thought, support and thought that's gone into this, that eventually when we get it open, it'll be a fantastic facility for our folks to operate from, and a facility that I believe that the public can be proud of. I know that our personnel that will operate out of this fire station are excited to see it eventually open. We've been very fortunate from the Board of Supervisors has supported this program, as well as our citizens, certainly your office, and then working with folks like Joe, being the county engineer overseeing this facility, and one of our deputy chief, Chris Sadler, has been intimately involved in this.
Well, let me just echo that. I'll say the Board of Supervisors, one of their strategic priorities is public safety, and they've been steadfastly committed to seeing this project through. From our standpoint, it's exciting. Like you said, it's been decades since we built a fire station. It's going to be quite something to see this fully operational. And I'll just again, as you did, mention all the great men and women of the Fire and Life Safety Department as well as Public Works who have overseen this from site acquisition, design, construction, and maybe by the time we do our next show, operation. Hey, great tour. Thanks for having us. Thanks for all the work that's gone into this. And I'm looking forward to the ribbon cutting.
Appreciate you coming down.
Thank you.
Same to you and all the Public Works folks who have helped make this possible.